Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back once again to the Tom Broadbent Lounge. After a week away, we're back on the sound waves with more to discuss. A very busy week at SM1. We've had two games on the pitch this week: a home win to equal our longest unbeaten run record, and an away win an away loss even. Sorry, get excited there. An away loss to bring our nonsense to an abrupt end. But still, we sit sixth in the Cybet League 2, just 4 points off the top spot, with a game still in hand. So not all's bad. As well as the stuff on the pitch, we here at the TSTBL headquarters have news of some exciting new STFC YouTube content for you. So, without further ado, let's get our teeth stuck right into the thick of it. So, joining me tonight, I have TSTBL regular and my glorious co-host, Mr. Chris Phillips. Chris, how's it going?
It's going very well, very well. Could have been better last night, but it's going well.
Well, we'll get on to that, mate. Let's leave the sour notes to a bit later on, shall we? Next up, I've got Mr. Rockin' Robin himself, Malcolm. Malcolm, how's it going, buddy?
Hiya, good evening, everyone.
Days. And last but by no means least, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome back to the lounge, Mr. Charlie Woods. Charlie, how's it going, pal?
Going very well. Thinking about the game last night, really.
Yeah, mulling it over. I know the feeling. I know the feeling. But I mean, let's try and start off on a bit of a positive footing, shall we? So, tracking back a tad to the weekend just gone by, the visit of Grimsby Town to the county ground. So, heading into the game, Town obviously unbeaten for 8 at the start of the League Two campaign, sitting nicely in the playoff positions at the time, I believe, as well. Manager Mike Flynn makes one change to the draw away at Morecambe. Jake Kane coming in for Josh McEachran. So, Town lining up as follows on Saturday: Murphy Mahoney in goal, Adoka Godwin Leaf, Tom Brewitt, FBT at the back, Romeo Hutton, Jake Kane, Saidu Khan, Tariq Uwakwe, Dan Kemp, and then Jake Young, Charlie Austin. So, Chris, we'll start with you, mate. Obviously, we went to the game together on Saturday. Watched Town put in a rather steady, assured performance, I'd say. What were your immediate thoughts, I guess, in particular in that first half? Obviously, started the game pretty well. I think we were in control of the first half on the whole. Dan Kemp, Dan Kemp doing Dan Kemp things, wasn't it?
It was pretty much. It was that game in particular. Whether we diced with death a little bit in that, but when we got over the halfway line, we were incisive, and that little flick from Charlie into Dan Kemp, and as soon as that ball came to Dan Kemp, we knew what was happening.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that as well. I've seen a lot over the last 24 hours on Twitter about Charlie Austin in particular. Now, I'd say that flick onto Kemp's run, not only did Charlie coming into midfield break a little bit of space because the defender followed him, obviously Dan's worked off the back of that and he's made space and he's got a goal. So I think that goal in particular really defines, I think, what Charlie Austin brings to this team this season.
I think, yeah, that's one thing I think is people are trying to judge Charlie Austin on being a guy who's going to bang in your 35 goals. Charlie Austin's game has changed. Charlie Austin's game is when he's dropping deeper. He's bringing Dan Kemp. He's bringing Jake Young. He's bringing Rashawn back into the game. He's he's dropping deep and he's making such an impact on this team. And without Charlie Austin's impact, we haven't had the start we have.
Mate, I couldn't agree any more, mate. I mean, Charlie, your thoughts on Charlie Austin this season? I think obviously Chris mentioned there, his important role in that Dan Kemp goal on Saturday, and we'll get on to the composure and the strength and the classy finish from Dan Kemp in a minute. But I think, as I said earlier on, Charlie Austin brings to this team a certain level of not only experience, but it's also a case of having that piece of nous that he's got, that he can bring that defender with him, leave that space in behind, trust his teammates to get into that position, and then have the quality on the ball to actually play that as well. Where do you stand, Charlie, in terms of the Charlie Austin? Does he start? Does he get dropped? Surely we've got to be happy with what he's doing, haven't we?
Yeah, I agree with Chris Sorry if I sound a
That's
bit
right.
croaky. Yeah, I agree with Chris a lot. Like, people think he's going to score loads of goals, but if you think about it, he's not done that bad. He is the reason why Jake Young and Dan Kemp have scored so many goals this season. And people saying he's not doing much, he is, but it's not what you would expect of a striker.
It's one of those, though. I think you get certain strikers that, as Chris mentioned there, he's not what he used to be in terms of 30, 35 goal a season striker, because his game was very much about his pace, his getting in behind. And I think as you get older, your body does change ultimately. And he's just maybe turned into a bit like a sort of what you saw from Wayne Rooney at the end of his career when he was dropping in between the lines, looking for those runners. I mean, Chris, am I getting giddy there comparing Wayne Rooney to Charlie Austin?
Not really, because the way that their careers morphed, and as you move on and you get there, there's quite a lot of strikers who just develop their game, become a different player. Look, Charlie's not got the pace to get up there, so when he drops off and just flicks those passes, as we saw to the one for Dan's goal on Saturday, and his reading of the game, his movement and whatnot.
Yeah, mate, I totally agree. Okay, so I mean, we'll leave Charlie there for just now. Obviously, that first half, I think, going on to the goal in the first half against Grimsby, that to me is what Charlie Austin brings to this team. And it was just something that I saw literally before going live. There was a tweet thread about Charlie Austin sodding off back to Australia because we don't need him. Genuinely, I was sort of flabbergasted when I saw it. So I just needed to mention that role that he played in that goal. Now, Malcolm, on the goal, what a finish. I mean, Dan Kemp, again, I saw a tweet earlier this week, and it was a case of if you have to pick one of Jake Young or Dan Kemp to sign on a permanent, I think I'm leaning towards Dan Kemp. I think he's one of the best players I've seen at the club in a while. Oh, Malcolm? He's not there. That's all right, because Carly's just pops up. Carly, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure as always. So we were just chatting there.
I agree with what you were saying. I just caught that bit.
Oh yeah,
about Dan Kemp. Definitely, he offers something quite sort of special, unique, doesn't he, for us?
I think it's the terms of like the quality is sensational, that he possesses such a two-footed, almost effortless sort of approach to playing the game. I'm trying to think of a player that I've seen in the last few years at Swindon that is so assured on the ball. I'm struggling.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm not very good with pulling things out of the old memory, but I just feel like as well, like as the games are going on for him, he doesn't always even need to look up. He kind of knows where his teammates are going to be, and he definitely knows where that target is, doesn't he? Bless him, like he fires them through.
100%. It's the team chemistry this year. We mentioned it in most shows. The chemistry in the squad just looks absolutely sensational. Charlie, I mean, Carly mentioned there the sort of on the same wavelength as each other and on the pitch making those runs, finding each other. The boys seem to know exactly where they are.
Yeah, I was gonna say in a interview with Dan Kemp, he said something about he just knows where Young is. He doesn't even have to look up. He just kicks the ball and he's there.
Mate, it's what you need in a squad that's going to be challenging for promotion. It's having that confidence in each other to, rely on your teammates, rely on a squad as a whole. It's so important. But obviously, sticking on the game on Saturday, second half, I mean, maybe a little more of a threat from Grimsby. Town top scorer Jake Young obviously replaced at half-time on Saturday. We learned last night Mike Flynn disclosed that he was ill. So it kind of is what it is. We all thought maybe because he can't play against Bradford, we were saving him for a full 90 against Notts. Not the case. Obviously, didn't start yesterday. Kane's goal, I mean, superb from Dan Kemp behind the back line, pinged it through. great run from Jake Kane, composure, lifting the ball over the keeper. 2-0, we were looking good. I mean, Charlie, at 2-0, I don't know about you, but I was fairly confident. I was quite comfortable as well.
Yeah, at 1-0, you're kind of like shaky, but you kind of think it's going to, when we score goals, you think we're just going to score more and more and more. But I don't know, that there was a different feeling in that game, but 2-0 kind of settled it out.
It did. I think we're probably a little bit close to being spoiled this season in terms of goals. As you say, when you go 2-0 up, I think we automatically think, right, 3, 4, 5. It's what the boys have done to us this year. They've instilled that confidence in scoring goals. Something that came just after the second goal went in was a bit of a viral incident in terms of VFL Twitter. Now, Malcolm, are you back with us, mate?
Yes,
here he is. No worries, mate. I'm moving on here just to the Rashawn Hepburn-Murphy penalty shout and the linesman. I mean, that picture we tweeted out. How was the linesman not given that? It's one of the worst I've seen, I think.
Well, yeah, I think it's just one of those things we get used to. I don't know what game they're watching sometimes. And they're supposed to be the referee's assistant, but they're not helping him. If the referee doesn't see it, he's there. Surely he's got to see it, and he's literally wearing his shirt or trying to wear his shirt. So how is that not a foul?
Mate, it's baffling, isn't it? I think over the last weekend or so, we've seen PGMOL getting absolutely battered because of the Liverpool Spurs game, and rightly so. Obviously, VAR, we haven't got to worry about that in League Two, so.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's obviously in the news and stuff. But the standard of refereeing, the standard of officiating throughout the Football League pyramid is absolutely atrocious. Like, say that photo that was tweeted out, you can see Hepburn Murphy's shirt is basically being ripped off this guy's back, and you've got the linesman peeping right through the two players, absolutely staring straight bang at it. So, I mean, they don't help themselves today. They get a lot of abuse, and obviously, a lot of that abuse. It's not called for. It's their job. It's not their full-time job, most of them either. But when you're officiating at this level, it's the matter of 3 points, and to a lot of people, that is what makes their week, isn't it? It means something.
Yeah, I mean, and some of the abuse can get quite nasty, over the top, and they are like human at the end of the day. But when you see things like that, it doesn't give you confidence in wanting to kind of defend them and say, give them a break. They make mistakes, because it looked stonewall.
Mate, it was definitely stonewall. It's one of the most stonewall penalties you are likely to see all season. And I think, obviously, we get that penalty at the time. I think it would have been gone up 3-0. I think you get a 3-goal lead, and what's to come doesn't really happen. I think, obviously, Grimsby get a goal back, and it made for a very, very nervy end to the game. I mean, Chris, we were chatting in the pub afterwards. It wasn't comfortable viewing for the last 10-15 minutes because Grimsby did pile on pressure, didn't they?
Oh, they did, and we got away with Mahoney made 2 outstanding saves in that game. It made a big difference, but we made that game so hard for ourselves. And to be honest, though, it's not much difference from defending from most of the season, where we've looked at so much vulnerable at the back, where we could be a bit more comfortable. But if it wasn't for that outstanding save from Mahoney from that awful back pass from Iwakwe, then we wouldn't have won that game.
I mean, it doesn't sound like Murphy Mahoney to be saving goals. We'll get on to him in a bit, but I mean, I thought he had a very good game on Saturday. He made a great save in the first half too. Obviously, the Grimsby player should be put in away. I think everyone knows that. But he stands up straight. He makes himself as big as possible. If you watch the Man United game last night and look at Onana for the third goal, I mean, he did exactly what Mahoney didn't do. Mahoney did exactly what Onana didn't do. He stood up, he made himself big, and it's gone straight at him, but he's made the save. Obviously, we've held on for the 3 points. Those are the sort of games where sometimes you need to grit your teeth and bear it a little bit. 2-1 wins, scrappy, but 3 points is 3 points, and it puts us into the automatics at the time. So, I mean, moving on to last night, before we get into the away trip to Nottingham, Chris, you made the journey up there or down from your Yorkshire habitat, actually. How are your nerves going into the game? What was the vibe like in the away end? I mean, if I'm honest, I was absolutely dreading it.
Actually, in that game, we were quite confident, to be fair, and we had a good thing where I met up with a couple of people in a pub before the game that I won't mention, and and the vibe was good. The vibe was good going in, but to be honest, once the game started and that kickoff, I think that just said what was going to happen for the first half. Really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll get into the game, I suppose. But I mean, Charlie, did you watch the match yesterday? What were your nerves like going into it? I mean, were you like Chris and quite positive and upbeat, or were you like myself and feeling a little bit like, oh, these look formidable?
Going into it, it was like half and half. I was like, we're on an unbeaten run. It's got to end at some point, but then also we're on an unbeaten run. It can't end. Like, and then after that kickoff, like Chris said, it kind of just dictated what was going to happen.
It's one of those, I think, as I say, from the off, Notts County look a very formidable side this season. I would go out on a limb and say they probably win the league. So it's one of those, we've lost by 2 goals away at a team that's likely going to get promoted. So it's not the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, let's get into the game, shall we? We're sort of jumping to conclusions here, I suppose. But getting into last night, a couple of changes made to the side that won at home to Grimsby. So Hepburn, Murphy and McEachran both coming into the side. Jake Young, obviously the gaffer mentioned he was ill at the weekend, so there's effects from that. And Jake Kane, the winner from Saturday, with an injury picked up late in the game. So, there's a scan that's happened, I think, today. So fingers crossed Jake's okay and we're back for us soon. So we'll go for the first half then, Chris. You start us off, mate. You were in the ground. We'll start off from the kickoff, shall we? And then you can move from there.
Well, that first half was. I mean, we've had a good start to the season, and we always knew you're going to have a bad game that's going to come in, and I think that just happened to us in that first half. And it was more for me the midfield. We were dragged all around in midfield. Khan had his worst game I've seen of this season. But it wasn't just him, it's just we were dragged around in midfield. But the worst thing is that they seemed to pick up quite quickly that the left side of our defence was vulnerable. So that's where most of their success came down to Wackware was out of position. I don't think even Fraser Beck Tracy had a great first half, because when you see that third goal that Dan Crowley scored, how much space did he have? That was on the left side of the defence. Where were the left side defenders?
I think I think last night is one of the main arguments I would have against the back three. Now, the back three for us this season, we were unbeaten until last night, so I'm not going to sit here and say it's shit and it's not useful and it's not going to be, good for Swindon Town this season, because ultimately I'm provably wrong. In my head, a back three always means that you think as a centre back you've got extra protection, so you have a bit of I guess an impression that you're able to move out of position because your mate to the side of you is covering you. Now, I think especially for the third goal last night, it seemed as if Brewer got sort of dragged over to the right-hand side. Blake Tracy presses forward, and there seemed to be a little lack of communication or understanding of one of them goes, right, he's gone, I stay. They all sort of dragged themselves over to the right-hand side, and, it leaves space. And ultimately, as you say, Chris, the Notts County players have got the absolute time in the world to tap the ball into an empty net. But it wasn't just that, though, was it? Obviously, 3-0 down at half-time, regardless of who you're playing, that's just not good enough. Carly, you watched the game yesterday at home. What were your thoughts?
I totally agree with what you're saying about the players being dragged over to one side, and that definitely happened at Wrexham more than once, 2 or 3 times. You just saw everybody sort of group mentality towards the ball rather than one saying, I better stay back for whatever's coming next. So that seems to be something, a bit of a weakness, if you like. For me, Grimsby, as they pressed forward, I felt like we started to be a bit more scattered, and that definitely became a stronger thing last night. I just felt like at times we were all over the shop. Obviously, we know that there was a bit of a change, like you say, but normally everybody kind of knows where they need to be and stays relatively well within position unless we're going forward. But last night it was just like someone had bowled a bowling ball down the middle of us and we all just scattered around, and I think that was just down to the sheer pressure from Notts County. That McGoldrick, I mean, had a great game. It is McGoldrick. Had a great game, and I just don't think we could handle him, to be honest. You know what a talent. We are going to come up against players like that.
I should say our problem for me, more often than not, last night was in midfield. We were overrun in midfield, and we never really addressed that. We made the adjustments in the second half helped, but the game was gone because we were just overrun in midfield.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It got to the point last night where, as I say, 3-0 at half time, the game is gone. It gets to the point where it's damage limitation. I mean, there wasn't much to write home about in the first half, I don't think. The only thing that I've written down here was a penalty shout. So the shout on Hepburn Murphy in the first half, surely he's gone through the back of the player to get the ball. Like
that was too far away from where I was. I was the other side of the halfway line, so I can't really say on there. But it looked, as much as you can say, it looked a foul.
I mean, I think my stream was a little bit behind because the group chat pinged and Gab says, "How is that not a penalty?" So I was sort of waiting for it to happen. I mean, Malcolm, your thoughts on that as well, mate? I mean, surely, like I say, it's gone through the player to get the ball. He has got the ball, and that's fair enough. But you can't be going through the player.
It's a bit like was it Van Dijk against Newcastle? He went through the player, got the ball, but he went through the player and he got sent off. Probably not to the same extent, maybe, but that kind of thing. Yeah, if you go through the ball, go through the player, then it is definitely a penalty. I think Mike Flynn said, yeah, it was a stonewall penalty. Theirs was as well. I couldn't argue with theirs either, although I like to try and argue against the refs, but you can't with that one. But just going back to your point a little bit earlier, sorry to kind of go back, but where you said about Austin, one thing I noticed about last night, he does all the work, like you said, everyone, he's working off the ball and pulls the defenders. But if you remember, McGoldrick made that save. I think it's a goal-saving save, right? Towards the end, sort of the last 20 minutes when he made that brilliant tackle in the penalty area. That's the kind of thing that he brings, and I think, it's those sort of things that they bring the older player that they'll get back and do that sort of stuff. But yeah, he was immense yesterday. And, they're a good team, and I've got a lot of respect for Notts County because they've done it the right way. They've come up over 100 points, and they've not been shouting and screaming like Wrexham. And I think they've done it the right way, and fair play to them.
I would also to bring that in. I would also suggest that when you're 3-0 down at half time and Jake Young can't play on Saturday, taking Charlie Austin off at half time was not a poor decision because, we literally have 2 strikers available and we need him available. And I thought that was just a good decision.
Yeah, he's got to save his legs, and he can't. Like you said, Tuesday, Saturday, he has been playing really well, and he's fitter than he has been for a long time. They keep saying to us, which I can totally belief. But yeah, he's gives him gives him that little bit extra rest for Saturday. Absolutely.
Charlie.
Just quickly to butt in, Bradford have just sacked Hughes.
Oh, here we go. I mean, we'll get on to Bradford in a second, but bloody hell, here you go. That's new manager bounce is it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll win 10-0. It's cool.
I think we knew that was coming really after Saturday. I was just waiting whether it was today or tomorrow.
Depends who they bring in and how long he's got, really.
I think, you'd imagine it'd be like a caretaker for Saturday, wouldn't you?
Yeah, at the moment it's Kevin MacDonald in a player/caretaker role.
Okay.
Let's not worry about it. Let's just go there, do our thing, be Swindon and do it. Come on, we can do it.
Not the Kevin MacDonald.
I was going to say, it's not our one, is it? Because that'd be all right. Right, anyway, let's finish off with Notts County, shall we? So, half-time, Charlie's come off, Uwakwe's come off. One of the replacements in Tyree Shade's immediate impact, back post header. 3-1, kind of that's where the story ends, really. I think there's a much improved side in the second half. Looking back at it, it's one of those, I think if Blake Tracy's header at the sort of hour mark, if it goes in, makes it 3-2 with half an hour left, I think that leads to a much more interesting end to the game. And I think, we come away, we might grab a point. But we've won the second half. I know that's quite a Sunday League thing to say, but we've not conceded any more goals. We've dropped the damage onto the goal difference. 6 points, sixth in the league, 4 points off top, game in hand. Does this change anyone's confidence here? I think, to me, it's a loss. We move on. It's one of those.
I think that second half, the changes, obviously Notts County weren't really adapting to, but I mean, we've been done by that a couple of times ourselves this season. But I mean, I thought Shade coming on down there as well did make a difference. But how many times has he come in and cut on? If he only had a left foot to go outside, he would be so much a better player. But
yeah, I think there's definitely a player in Tyree Shade. I think, as an impact over the last couple of years at Swindon, I think he genuinely has come onto games and changed them. I think last night, it's not a game that you bring on a player and go, right, go and win it for us, lad. It's not that sort of match. It's kind of a free hit, if you like. And I don't think he's done himself any damage in his chances of getting into the side. I think, Uwakwe's had a couple of tough games on the spin. Tyree Shade could come in there, or do you bring Brooklyn Genesini in at left back and give, Uwakwe a bit of rest? We've got a squad, and I think Tyree Shade's a very important player in that squad, and I think we'll probably see him from the start on Saturday. Now, I wanted to sort of just on the end of Notts County, because obviously it's 3-1 away at a promotion chasing side. It's a loss. It is what it is. It's our first loss of the season. As I mentioned there, is anyone here taking any sort of hit to their optimism or confidence? Because we've played a very good side away from home. We've lost and we move on. Surely that's just the way we've got to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't. It's a shame because the longer we go unbeaten, the less you want to lose. But we all knew deep down that we were going to lose at some point, and to lose to Notts County, I guess, is not such a bad thing, because I think they are, if not the best team, one of the best teams, probably top two, top three. So yeah, we've just got to move on, and this will show where we are as a squad, I think.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's a chance, isn't it, to bounce back? I think this is the first time this season where you go, right, lads, let's show us your character here. Let's come back on Saturday and get 3 points.
Yeah, also to bear in mind as well, that before this game, the only time we were behind was against Forest Green. So we've had, before this, 9 games, and we've never been behind. So we're all right.
We are all right. I think, as I say, it's certainly not the end of the world. I'd rather lose this unbeaten streak earlier than later. You get to sort of March, April time, you think, bloody hell, we could be on for an unbeaten season here, like an invincible one.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be heartbreaking at the end of the season to lose that.
Yeah.
But as I say, sixth in the league, 4 points off top, game in hand. Anywhere in that top three, it's fine.
Well,
Definitely.
hey,
I totally thought last night that we were going to get beat. For me, I did say I think this is the one that we're going to lose. But I think, to be honest, it's lovely to be unbeaten, but it kind of puts the pressure on a little bit more, doesn't it? Like, we know that we've got to lose at some point. So we've got it out the way now, and then we can press on. They were the better side. We can't argue against that. You know, they really come at us. And when they broke away, they were just so quick we couldn't cope with them. So I think that's a good thing. Then we come away and think, right, well, we know they were the better side and that's why they won. It wasn't for any other reason. So like you say, we just push on. But I think I said to you, Joe, after the match on Saturday, that was there something wrong with Jake Young? Because, excuse me, he didn't look like he was on form to me.
Oh, Carly, you dropped out there. I think someone's pressed the mute button by accident.
Sorry.
That's it. Yep, got you back.
that's it. Yeah.
I didn't touch anything, but hey. It's interesting that Flynn's come out and said that he's unwell, because he definitely seemed to not be fully firing to me, pardon the pun. And I suppose this is the worry that a lot of us had about the depth of the squad and things like that. Kane's picked up a knock, Youngie's obviously not too good, and then do we start to see a little bit of trouble within the squad, you know, trying to cover the pitch or whatever? But no, I just think they were the better side. We lost, and like you say, that's it. We push on to the next game.
But one thing about that is,
Oh, Chris, I think you got on mute again.
Muted by the host.
Mate, these mute buttons are going off and on today.
oh, hello, does that work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
back.
I was going to say about that. I can't remember what I was going to say now, but so I won't.
Fair enough. Let's move on. Obviously, Notts County, it is what it is. Lost 3-1. We move on. Got a game on Saturday. Best opportunity to come and, show character as a team. Use our squad. We've got some injuries. We've got some illness. That's fine. The boys get a chance to go and prove themselves. Now, just a very quick one. Ladies and gentlemen, you just seen over the weekend that myself, today's birthday boy, Ellis Holloway, and Mr. Gabs Benany spent a little time at Swindon Town's training base, Beversbrook. As announced on our Twitter yesterday, this season, the Storm Broadbent Lounge are extremely pleased to be hosting a new segment over on the official STFC YouTube page. So, TSTBL versus STFC, you know the drill. Now, just like the Jimmy Bullard Soccer AM piece, throughout the season, we'll be visiting all the different STFC sides, both men and women, from academy to first team, and even a few extra special members of staff. Hint, hint, kitmen. To take them on in a variety of different drills as set by their coaches. So each drill winner will win 3 points for their respective side, be that podcast or club. With each drill win, these points will go into the overall the drill leaderboard to determine the ultimate winner come the end of the series. So kicking off the series, we were up against Swindon Town Women's Football Club, first team. And let's just say there were some goals in capital letters and also some fails, again, in capital letters. The first video hopefully will be with you next week on Swindon's official YouTube page. We really hope you guys enjoy it as much as we did filming it. It was an absolute laugh. The girls were fantastic. Richard Wood, the first team manager over at STWFC, was brilliant too. Really, really, really worth a watch. So get your teeth stuck into it when it comes out, and make sure you watch out for Ellis's superb overhead kick. please clip it up, send it on socials. Make sure you make him feel as much of a tit as I did on Saturday. So, yeah. So while we're on Swindon Town Women's Football Club, dropping out of the National League Cup with a 3-0 loss away at Rugby Borough this weekend. Tough game, away to a team in the tier above. They lost 3-0, which isn't a disgrace. They now move on to the FA Cup in the league. The girls are still flying. They're back in the county ground this weekend as well. The visit of Bridgewater, Sunday 2 p.m. kickoff. Make sure you get down to the ground to support the girls as they look to get back to winning ways in the league. Chris, let's move on, shall we, to the men's side this weekend. Bradford away. Now, to me, Bradford is not a happy hunting ground for Swindon Town. I've put here at the top of my notes, Hughes under pressure, which we now have learnt that pressure is no longer. They're sitting 18th in the league. They lost 2-1 away at struggling Tranmere last night. Is this a game, despite Valley Parade being an unhappy hunting ground for Swindon, is this a game we need to be winning?
Well, you say an unhappy hunting ground. I've been there the last couple of seasons. We drew there 1-1 last year with an absolutely dodgy penalty that Jeff got missed and put the rebound in. But the season before, Jack Payne got us apparently the last minute penalty, which was a deserved one. So my experiences of going the last couple of years is all right. But sacked manager, they're going to be a bit up for it. But they've been in disarray all season. We've got to just basically the bare minimum there is a point, but we've really got to go there and win.
I would say so too. I mean, the big thing I've got in my notes here in capital and bold is no Jake Young. Now, obviously, we've not really had Jake for the last couple of games due to his current illness.
Yeah.
He is a big miss, isn't he? I think even psychologically, having a player that scored 9 goals this season so far on the pitch gives the fans a lot of confidence.
He is. He is, but then the big worry now that they've sacked Mark Hughes is that the big reason that we had Jake Young is because he fell out with Mark Hughes. So now any chance perhaps of signing him is reduced. I don't understand really why, but we didn't sign him permanently first place, but that's another question. But he can't play, so that's out of it. So we're reduced to, we've got Austin and Hepburn Murphy only options up front.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've played such a fluid system with Dan Kemp in the middle that without Jake Young, I think you lose, some would say, a little bit of legs. But I think Dan Kemp and Hepburn Murphy, they bring that anyway. They bring that energy.
Yeah.
Hepburn Murphy is arguably the quickest player in the league, let alone the squad. Against quite a tall and, I'd say, ageing Bradford backline. They've got Liam Ridehouse at the back still.
Yeah. I
mean, he's got to be at least 55. You have Hepburn Murphy running against him. It's not going to be easy for him. So I mean,
but the biggest issue there that we have is now that Young's unavailable, if we lose one of our strikers injured, we've not got another striker because our our next in line from the academy is out for the year anyway. So who's our Harry Parsons?
Yeah, you mentioned there, obviously, absolute thoughts, wishes and love to Abu Kanu. Really difficult injury to deal with, ACLs. One of my mates, Harrison, was on the books of Crystal Palace. Within 18 months, he did both ACLs. And I know how difficult that rehab can be. So, yeah, wish all the best to Abu in his road to recovery.
Well, I was going to say, I know that's right because I did 3 of my ligaments at once. It's 18 months. 18 months.
Yeah, it's such a difficult period as well. He was at the very cusp, I think, of breaking through to the first team at Swindon. Obviously, he'll get all the support he needs from the club, I'm sure. It's a disappointment for him, isn't it? I think, this was an opportunity, even games like this where Jake Young can't can't play. You would imagine that Carney would have been on the bench as that sort of understudy striker. And unfortunately, he's missing out on his chances. But they'll come, they'll come. He's got the ability. He's thought of very, very highly at the football club. I've got no doubt in my mind that Abu Carney will be back banging in goals at some point in a red shirt for Swindon Town. Malcolm, we'll come to you, mate. Obviously, we're Jake Youngless at the weekend, but I would say the word Youngless could also be used to describe Bradford City, as I've said there. They're an aging team of, I would say, quite tall, possibly agricultural footballers. The likes of Sean Hepburn Murphy, surely he causes them absolute terrors.
You think so? Yeah, definitely. I think he's got to go get on the front foot. We've just got to play our game, and yeah, hopefully he can weave a bit of magic. He had a few chances last night, but it's a different team, like you said. So they're a different proposition. They're at home. I think the crowd's going to be bouncing now because they got rid of Hughes. So yeah, it's going to be it's always a tough place to go, but it's going to be a little bit tougher now. But we just got to go there, be confident, play our game, and let Michael Flynn weave his magic. And you never know who he's got. He's got a few people in training with us, and so maybe one of those is a striker. Maybe, I don't know. I've not heard any kind of rumours.
He also needs to make sure that Sean keeps his mouth shut, because that literally could have got him sent off last night. Luckily, Darren Drysdale, for a change, actually looked out for Swindon by calling Fraser Blake-Ozer to tell him to shut up.
I think we're lucky that Darren Drysdale didn't try and knock him out after his antics at Ipswich a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think. I think, is it Darren Drysdale's Bradford's favourite referee? He was down here last season. I think they told him exactly how he felt. But yeah, with Rush, I think I was listening to the home commentary last night, and they said we didn't have a goalkeeper on the bench. They said that Rush kicked the ball away twice, should have been booked twice. But I thought kicking the ball away was time wasting. Why are we going to time waste when we're 3-1 down? So I think he gave us a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but eventually did book him for the same thing anyway. So, yeah, he neast to just stop.
But also, when you're talking about time wasting, their goalkeeper, how much time wasting was their goalkeeper doing and that got away with? So it goes both ways.
Well, I think at the start of the season, we thought we were going to see loads of goalkeepers get booked, because we saw it quite a few times in the first few games. But like anything, with these new rules, they kind of forget about them, and they're on them for the first few games, and then they get forgotten about. So I don't think I think it's gone by the wayside again.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be seeing goalkeepers getting booked every 5 seconds, do you? I think there has been an improvement in terms of time wasting. You don't often hear the town hen count into 35 like we used to do when goalkeepers are taking goal kicks. Obviously, speaking of fans, I think Chris mentioned it, or maybe yourself, Malcolm, actually, sorry. Valley Parade on Saturday, it's going to be absolutely bouncing. I mean, Charlie, Mark Hughes going, that's going to make a lot of Bradford City fans happy. You would imagine that would probably add another 1,000, 2,000 to the gate. It's going to be a banging crowd. It's going to be, ultimately a confidence boost on the Bradford side. We're without Jake Young. I mean, where's your head at with Saturday? Are you confident? Are you nervous? Are you more nervous now than you were about an hour ago?
Confident, but at the same time, I think they could give us a fight. Because obviously their interim is one of their players, so they'd know how they've been playing and what they've been doing wrong. I feel confident, but a little bit less than I was before he was sacked.
I think it's interesting you mentioned that as well, Charlie. Players coming in as a caretaker manager. Now, Swindon Town aren't a stranger to this. We've had Matty Taylor do it just before Richie Wellens signed, I believe. We also had Darren Ward and Tommy Miller, if I remember correctly, take over from Paolo Di Canio. Now, I've spoken to Paul Caddis about this. He's very good friends with Tommy Miller. He said that, you know, he's heard from the boys. It's like your mates coming in. It's sort of like a very easy transition. It's a very relaxed environment, and I think that's probably what a lot of Bradford City fans are hoping is happening to their side at the minute. That sort of ease into more of a calming environment for their players. Now, I think it can go one of two ways. I think if we start absolutely hammering them, they go 2 or 3 nil down. Their manager is trying to make some decisions or harsh decisions or call the shots against his mates or towards his mates and stuff. I think it could end up with their heads being absolutely swiveled, and potentially falling off. But then also on the opposite side, I think if they go 1-0 up, it breeds confidence across the squad. I think it could be a tricky one. I mean, Chris, I'm talking myself into a hole here. I don't know what to think of it. I think uh, the whole player manager thing, to me, it kind of scares me because I've got sort of aspects or memories of the likes of like Glenn Hoddle being really successful at Swindon, coming in and having that relationship with the players. Am I overthinking this? Does it really matter for one game? It'll have like 2 or 3 training sessions before.
Uh, as a caretaker manager, I wouldn't read too much into that as well, because you're just looking for someone who knows the players, knows the team and whatnot, especially when you've done it 3 games before a game. Or sorry, 3 days before a game. What other option did you have?
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. So, I mean, we'll get some sort of starting 11 predictions and some score predictions to end the show, shall we? Chris, we'll start with you, mate. We've got you on the line.
Mm.
Starting 11 wise, obviously, Jake Young is missing. Do you start with the same 11 as last night?
I start with pretty much a similar thing, but I start with Tyree Shade at left back. I've been questioned about this today. I on the left side, let's say, instead of Awakwe. So apart from that, so we're looking at I think really bringing Tyree Shade in on that left side is probably the only change I'd make from the starting lineup from last night, because look, we've got a small squad. There's not much in there. The only thing I might be questionable about might be to bring Lim Kinsella in, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would do that quite yet.
No, that's fair enough. I think Kinsella had a good game yesterday. He came on.
Yeah.
But I think the McKecker and Khan duo, they weren't fantastic last night, but come on now, they've been one of the best centre midfield partnerships in the league this season, so they deserve at least one day off, don't they?
I thought Saidu Khan had his poorest game this season last night, but that wasn't. He just had a bad game. People have a bad game. I would give him another go.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, mate. Absolutely agree. Charlie, what about you, buddy? Are you going same 11, or are you going to change the goalkeeper? That's be different, or are you going to keep Super 2 double save Murphy Mahoney in net? Is that really quick? I need to shoehorn that in. I forgot earlier on, but let's have a chat about Murphy, shall we?
I'm going towards the same as Chris, taking Uwakwe out, but I wouldn't change anything else, really.
No, who do you take? Who do you bring in? Sorry for Uwakwe. Do you go Genesini or do you bring in Shade like Chris?
Shade probably. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. Malcolm, are you unanimous with this, or are you thinking something else?
Yeah, I think that's possibly what I do. I'm just a bit concerned about how it might affect Uwakwe with the confidence kind of thing. So, I mean, Flynn obviously knows him better than we do, so maybe he might keep him in just to kind of keep that confidence thing going. But it's one of those. It's a big game. It's the crowd's going to be on it, like we've said before, and it might just might need him to have a little bit of a break. But yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure, but I think he probably will bring in Shade, like you said. So we'll see. But I feel for him a little bit because of his confidence, and hopefully it won't damage him too much.
I suppose these are the moments, aren't they, where Mike Flynn he earns his wage. He gets paid to do exactly this. I believe it may have been Jake Young or potentially Dan Kemp said on the show a couple of weeks ago that Mike Flynn is the best man manager they have ever experienced in football. So if he takes out your Wakway, if this is a chance to go, right, okay, have a breather, take you out of the firing line just for a moment, put an arm around him, give him whatever he needs, whether that's a kick up the arse, whether that's a bit of love, TLC, that's for the gaffer to work out and to play with, isn't it, really? We've got a squad of players that are more than capable to interchange, to come into the side, continue that continuity of good results and performances. You've got to use them. You pay the squad a wage to play football. There's no point in hiding behind 11 of an 18-man matchday squad. I mean, Carly, where do you stand? Are you making changes? Are you rigging changes?
Yeah, like you say, it's Mike Flynn. This is what he's paid to do. I don't, the same as you, Malcolm. I don't like to run players down or whatever, but I do think maybe Uwakwe has the last two matches not really shown a huge. I just feel like sometimes he's sort of a little bit out of position, out of where he should be on the pitch. So maybe it's time to sort of maybe drop him, put Shade in, who definitely has earned his place, and just see if it makes a bit of difference. Like you say, might just need to sort of, like you say, take a breather, watch the match, and see how it impacts. Really, it's a real tricky one, isn't it? It's hard when you've brought somebody in, and they haven't made massive errors, but it just doesn't seem to be clicking, does it?
I think one of the things with that as well is it's not always about, like say, lack of confidence and whatnot. If you've had a couple of poor games, getting dropped actually gives you the kick up the arse you need. And
I think different players can take it differently, can't they? It's, as I said earlier on, it's the gaffer's job to work out the sort of mindset or mentality of a footballer. Like, some people respond to it, some people don't. I think if you look at, I'm going to sort of reference elite level sportsmen here, in the sort of Premier League and above at international football. I think there are players like, you look at someone like Marcus Rashford. I think he's the sort of player that you need to keep playing through bad form. Otherwise, if you take him out, his head drops, and he loses it. I think over a season period, we saw it last year. But you look at someone like who am I thinking? Who am I going to pick here? Someone like, even like a Ronaldo went through stages at United in his early career where he would go off a game for one game and he'd be dropped, and he responded to it perfectly. And he'd come back on and absolutely smash it, score a hat trick next game. So I think there are mentality differences between players. Now, whether Uwakwe is one of those players that will respond well to being dropped and to having to prove himself in training and working hard each day to get back into that side and earning it, or as you say, Chris, does his head just drop and he loses it? It's a tough one, but I guess that's where the manager's his pennies come in, doesn't it?
I think this as well, and I think Flynn's done this really well as well, because he's, without actually massively throwing Shade under the bus, he's tempted him to say, right, you've got all this skill, come out and show it. So I'd say play him on Saturday, and let's see how he responds.
I think that's a good point there. I think that was very similar to a lot of what Richie Wellens did in his time at Swindon. Richie was very, very good, even with the fans. Like, he would come out in an interview and he'd maybe say something along the lines of, we didn't get the win tonight because the fans aren't giving us their all, or leading a little with that. And the next game, the fans would respond and they'd come in their droves and the atmospheres were fantastic. And again, Richie did that with a lot of the players on the pitch as well in that league winning season. again, like I said, this is interesting. I think this is where maybe one of the first instances this season that the Gaffers had to actually make a really, really difficult decision. Oh, no one there. Anyway, like I say, as a group, I think we're pretty unanimous in terms of the starting 11. I think it's going to be similar to last night. I would bring in Tyree Shayler left wing back, as you say. I think we'll have a lot of the ball against Bradford. I think with that ball, if you've got Tyree Shayler on the left-hand side, is a fantastic outlet to be able to spread your play, to be able to really attack within transitions and stretch the defence.
I was going to say the only frustration I had with Shade coming down there, and he always give us that outlet, is that he always cut inside because he's right-footed, and and it's frustrating as well because sometimes he could have gone down there out left, and if he had left foot put it in, would have given us more. But our options down that left side are very limited, and at the moment, I think Shade is our best option.
Yeah, no, I agree, buddy. I agree. Just rounding off the end of the show here quickly. Let's get some predictions for Bradford because I don't know where I am with it. I think over the last half an hour, obviously the announcement of Mark Hughes going, I think it's a myth potentially, but there is a sort of in commas, the new manager bounce. If that's a thing, then it tends to happen against us quite a lot. I think we play struggling sides in the league fairly often when they've just sacked their gaffer, which again sometimes helps, sometimes it's one of those. I think if you lose the game, everyone brings up the new manager bounce argument, and it's like, oh well, of course we've lost. It's voodoo magic. It always happens. So I'll kick us off with. I'll go 2-2. I think you take a draw away from home. As I say, in my head at least, maybe not on paper, but in my head, Bradford's not a happy hunting ground. Charlie, what are your predictions for Saturday?
I'm going to go Bradford score 1 first, and then we end up winning 3-1.
Take that. Chris, what about you, buddy?
I'm going to go 2-1 as well because I don't think a manager coming in now is going to make that much difference. And the way they've been playing is very because, like, as you know, I'm up here with all of these Bradford fans, and they just said that all season they've been playing poorly. So I'm saying we win 2-1.
Well, again, we'll take that happily. Malcolm, predictions?
I'm going for a 2-1 win. Like I said, I'll be happy with a draw. But yeah, hopefully we'll just snatch it. Maybe, I don't care last minute off someone's ass, however it goes in. But yeah, we've got to go there and show what we can do and not worry about what they got to do. We've got to play our stuff that we've been doing this season. And, we are a good team. So let's go do it.
That is the positive mentality that we all crave, Malcolm. Thank you very much. Carly, your predictions for Saturday?
I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for us. Although, like you say, in the last hour, having found out about Hughes, again, they're going to want the justification, aren't they, for losing him, the fans, the players. So I think it's going to be a really tough challenge for us because of that alone. I do think we'll just nick it. I don't think it's going to be a game with loads of goals.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I suppose if we nick it, as Malcolm says, if we get a 90th minute winner, that's absolutely perfect. But I would be happy with a draw, but we'd be ecstatic with a win. We'll see. This is the beauty of League football and League Two football, where the leagues are so bloody tight and unpredictable. But we're going to win the league and piss it anyway, so it is what it is. Just a quick look through the comments quickly. Thank you very much to Supermarine Radio Extra for listening in tonight. He reckons it will be a town win, 3-1. We'll take that very much. He's also mentioned there, on behalf of Supermarine Radio, I'd like to wish STFC good luck away to Bradford. If any town fans are looking for some local football in Swindon, then Supermarine are home to Tiverton in the FA Trophy, where Conor Brand could make his home debut. So best of luck to Supermarine in the FA Trophy. I'll give you a prediction there, Supermarine Radio Extra. I will go Swindon Supermarine 4, Tiverton Town 1. That's my prediction over there. Ending off the show, guys, as always, thank you very much for joining us this evening. A quick reminder that we are the Tom Broadbent Lounge. We're an independent X space, and we are not affiliated with either Swindon Town Football Club nor Sir Tom Broadbent himself. Thank you once again for listening, and come on, you Reds.